Did you know that there are over 7,000 languages all over the world, and a person who can speak multiple languages is called a polyglot? But I bet even the most experienced polyglots will have a hard time mastering these languages you're about to hear that just seem to defy the norms of speech, structure, and pronunciation, at least to the untrained tongue.
Hurdy-gurdy-gurdy.
Get ready to be tongue-tied by the 8 weirdest and rarest languages in the world. What's up, Eknetics? This is Discovery Amuse serving up your daily dose of the most outrageous, outlandish, and out-of-this-world fun facts. Keep watching till number 1 because that one is considered the hardest language on the planet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you could speak whale.
Number 8. Silvagomero. Off the coast of Africa is a small island called La Gomera, part of Spain's Canary Islands. If you happen to be visiting, you might chance upon a series of whistles echoing across the mountains. Nope. Those are not bird calls. They're actually sending out messages to people on the other side of the mountain through a language called Silvagomero. The whistling sounds made through the fingers are composed of varying pitches and trills that imitate the phonetic sounds of Castilian Spanish.
Para mí es importante el silbo porque es parte de nuestro legado, de nuestra cultura. El silbo forma parte activa de nuestro ser.
Since these whistles can be heard from miles away, it's a pretty quick way to make announcements or even send out invitations to neighbors. Though you might want to be careful with that if you don't want the entire island to show up to the party.
Una botella de vino blanco.
Although the natives do speak Spanish, they still want to preserve their native tongue, especially since only about 20,000 people remain fluent in Silvagomero. Young natives are taught Silvagomero as soon as they learn how to speak. You'll likely hear a lot of whistling in school hallways since they have to practice the language up until high school. If you thought that was complicated, stay tuned till number 1 and see if you have what it takes to learn that language. Number 7. Chalcotongo Mixtec. Imagine being able to speak the world's weirdest language. Well, according to statistics, that is. Among the more than 50 varieties of the Mixtec language, the Chalcotongo Mixtec, also known as San Miguel el Grande Mixtec, is the most difficult to study. Roughly 6,000 people speak the language in Oaxaca, Mexico. A team of researchers from a natural language processing company called Idibon compared 239 different languages. They analyzed how subjects, objects, and verbs are ordered, or the syntax of their sentences. Among all of them, Chalcotongo Mixtec stood out as the most complex. The most notable of all its features, apparently, is the fact that you can't really tell if the native speaker is asking a yes or no question or declaring a simple statement. There's really no difference in the intonation nor the word order. Number 6. Gugu Yimidir, Australia.
That means I hit him too with a stick.
Did you know that the word kangaroo is from an Australian Aboriginal language? It's based on the word gangaroo from the native language of the Gugu Yimidir people from far north Queensland.
Nulu yuko balkalkal. Nulu nganele.
One notable element of the language is its use of cardinal directions like north, south, east, and west to reference something in front or behind. You probably should also know which way is north every single time. Among the 1,400 population of the Gugu Yimidir people, only half can speak the language as of 2020. So the elders are helping out in making tutorial videos such as this to pass the language on to the younger generation and ultimately preserve their heritage.
Ngayu yuwal nama. Ngayu ai
Yuwal beach nama si. Ngayon yuwal nama.
Number 5. Archie Russia. You can only hear people counting this way if you happen to be in the village of Archie in southern Dagestan, Russia.
Re, heb, ep, pro, dich, wich, mache, uch, witz.
Although this ultra-rare language has been around for hundreds of years, the Archie didn't have a writing system until a Cyrillic alphabet was developed in 2006. What makes this language all the more unusual is its multitude of phonemes or distinguishing sounds. One verb root can also have more than 1 million possible other forms. 1,502,839 possible forms to be exact. In English, you only add prefixes and other endings to verbs to create different forms. But in Archie, they take the verb and make new words out of it. It can vary based on the tense, mood, or evidentiality. They only use a few of these verb forms in everyday conversations, but it won't hurt to have 1 million more options, right? Number 4. Tah Botswana. Who said languages only involved words and accents? Over in the southern part of Africa, many languages have clicking sounds, one of which is the language used by native people from Botswana called Tah.
How do you say good day?
Good day, I say naga for afternoon.
Naga.
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 Although most of these clicking languages equally sound pretty unusual for foreigners.
If I greet you, how are you? You have to say, Nkia, itimamiri, Nkia, Nkia, I'm fine. Yeah, nothing. Go.
Tah is on a whole other level with its arsenal of unique sounds, making it one of the world's most complex spoken languages. Wait, what? Pre-voiced with voiceless velar frictive followed by glottalized vowels? I don't even know what half of those words mean, and that just describes one clicking sound. Learning Tah can be a lumpy ride. Just ask non-Botswanan Tah expert Tony Trail, who literally developed a lump on his larynx after trying to master the language's 5 basic clicks, 17 accompanying ones, and 4 vowel types. He later discovered that native speakers also have the same lump. Although it has a wide sound range, Tah still uses subject-verb-object agreement, a sentence structure common among popular languages like English. Number 3. Rotokos, Papua New Guinea. On the island of Bougainville, in Papua New Guinea, you can hear a language spoken by its 4,300 inhabitants. It's called Rotokos, and it has 3 recognized dialects: Aita Rotokos, Pipipaya, and Central Rotokos. The most notable of which is Central Rotokos, which has one of the smallest phonemic inventories in the world with only 11 phonemes. It also has the smallest modern alphabet with only 12 letters. That's A, E, G, I, K, O, P, R, S, T, U, and V. Rotokos doesn't have nasal consonant sounds like n and which is quite unusual for a language. You can only hear these nasal sounds from a native speaker when they're trying to imitate a foreigner imitating their language. Number 2. Piraha, Brazil. Aside from its natural wonders, Amazonian Brazil holds a lot of cultural treasures, including an indigenous language called Piraha. It's the only remaining dialect of the Mura language, which once had a speaking population of around 60,000. However, as natives began learning Portuguese, only about 250 to 380 people were left who spoke the language. Piraha is one of the simplest languages in the world in terms of phonemes. There have been claims that it has only 10. They just don't communicate with words. They also incorporate hums, whistles, or music.
We told you that the word for milk is iboge, but you can also say ibroge, or you can say ibril, or you can say ibril, or you can say, or you could say
Linguist Dr. Dan Everett claims that Piraha lacks descriptors, unlike other languages. It doesn't have words for colors, numbers, or even past or future tenses. They only use the Piraha equivalent for light and dark in place of colors, and their version of few or many for numbers. Some of Dr. Everett's claims were criticized, but at least 3 other studies back up his claim. Since Piraha is a complex language to learn, only a few linguists have in-depth knowledge about it. Before we go to our number 1 pick, make sure to smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to choose all so you won't miss out on any of our latest life-changing, boredom-busting content, and of course, be sure to turn on notifications in your app settings. Number 1. Toyuca, South America. Toyuca is a language spoken by the indigenous people who live near the Papuri River, the Inabu River, and the Tikai River that run along Colombia and Brazil. In 2009, The Economist hailed Toyuca as the hardest language in the world. Besides having 50 to 140 noun classes, it's notoriously hard to learn for 2 significant reasons. One is that it's an agglutinating language, which means that it strings together simple words to form longer, more complex ones that translate to an entire sentence. It's made even more difficult with its evidential nature, which means that the verb depends on the speaker's evidence of it happening. If you really want to learn Toyuca, you might have to immerse yourself and spend a great deal of time with the 500 to 1,000 indigenous people remaining who speak the language. So, which of these languages would you like to take a shot at learning? Tell us about it in the comments section below. Take home any of our exclusive gear by browsing our merch shelf or clicking the link in the video description, and while you're at it, take our quiz to find out how you can earn extra cash online doing what you do best. Awesome, right? Now, let's take a trip to the dark side as we count down 9 of the world's toughest prisons. Till then, stay chatty, Factnatics, and see you in the next video.